It's Mark again, and we have another clock that we're going to work on. My friend gives me clocks all the time, every time I go see him, because I help him out all the time. Well, he had this little novelty clock, and he just handed it to me. It's a pretty cool clock. When the pendulum swings, the heads go back and forth. Now it has DRGM right here. That gives you the age. And it also says there's a name of the company right here. I can't quite make it out. No jewels, unadjusted, Germany. In order to take this movement out, and I'm going to take it out so I can clean it, this comes off. I already started taking it off. But you have to be able to take this out from the man and woman that swing back and forth. And so with most of these novelty clocks, once you remove the dial, there's screws underneath that you undo to take the movement out. And this is a paper dial, and the nails are just going right through it. But with this clock, I was wrong. It's probably got nails. These two outside nails, maybe this nail here is how you get it off. So I'm gonna pop it off from the dial. The face of the clock. In other souvenir clocks, I discussed this before. It's for people that go to Germany, go to the Black Forest. They want a reminder of their trip. They don't want to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a typical Black Forest clock, so they purchase a clock like this. And these days, most of these souvenir clocks are battery operated. And so that's why I like these weight-driven clocks. So now, taking these nails out, I'll be able to take the movement out. So, these things last forever, for the most part. Every once in a while, you're going to find a great wheel that the ratchet system isn't working anymore. And when I get this thing out, you'll understand why. Stand by. They didn't want this movement coming out. This is how long the nails are. They're pretty long nails for this movement. But anyway, now I got the nails out. I should be able to take this movement out. I might have to bend the crutch assembly out of the way, which is no big deal. I can straighten it out later, as long as I don't break it. There's the box. But there's a spring right here for the ratchet assembly. A lot of times the spring is broken. there's a little bit of surface rust on this thing, and I typically don't take these things all the way apart because these little tabs, you can only bend them so many times before you break them. So, this thing probably never been serviced, so I shouldn't break the tabs off. And these tabs, well, good. This is the most important part. The hour pipe and minute pipe, I thought it was missing, but I can't remember from one thing to the next thing sometimes. Get these parts out of my way. But anyway, I should be able to bend these and they come off. But I'm going to do it off camera, so stand by. There are burrs preventing me from pulling this thing up, so I had to get out my Dremel. I got half of it done, but there are burrs at the very where these things were twisted, so using my Dremel to take this thing apart. So I looked at the Microlisk trademark database for this, couldn't find it, but I sent it to my Black Forest group expert, Valentin Weber, and hopefully by the time I post this video to my YouTube channel, he'd answer me back so I can give you that information. Anyway, I'm going to take my Dremel and a wire brush attachment to this and put this in my ultrasonic cleaner and clean it up. Parts from the parts cleaner, I'm going to take these permanent markers. I'm going to try to color in some of this. And is it going to look perfect? Probably not, but it'll look a lot better than what it looks now. Permanent markers, I was able to do black and red, but skin color and yellow, it doesn't show up. So I'm probably going to have to use some acrylic paint and to make them look halfway decent. I mean, they don't look that bad. They're older than I am, and I'm only 27, so they're pretty old. I said this before. If you didn't take pictures, and I took this video, but if you understand how a clock works, and you look at your pictures and you can't see it, it didn't take. You should review your pictures, by the way. But if you understand how a clock works, as long as you took one picture, you should be able to figure it out. This is a wheel. This one that's got all the little teeth all on it. This is actually the great wheel. It's the one that has the ratcheting system. It is the first wheel. A wheel lines up with either a pinion gear or a lantern pinion gear. In this case, the great wheel, which is this, the wheel itself lines up with the pinion gear on the second wheel, which is this gear right here. That's the pinion gear. This is the wheel. The wheel on the second wheel lines up with the pinion gear on the escapement wheel, and of course the virgin crutch assembly lines up with the teeth on the escapement wheel. So a time-only clock is a very good clock for beginners to take apart and put back together, to understand the concept of how it goes back together. You should always take pictures, especially if you're a beginner or if it's the first type of clock you ever worked on. I take pictures quite often for clocks that it's been a while since I've worked on them. And so using my oiler that Michael Anderson, Just Mike, gave me, I'm going to oil the pivots. And with this precision oiler, you put it on the pivot hole, you give it a little push, and then you release, and it's going to put oil in, and then it's going to suck up the rest of the oil. Again, give it a little push, and you can see the oil it put out, but I released it, and now it's sucking up the rest of the oil. That was a little bit too much oil because it's on the plate, and you don't want oil on the plate because it will discolor your plate over time. So take a Q-tip, paper towel, or whatever, and wipe off the excess oil. That was just for a demonstration to show you how this oiler works. Again, put it on the pivot hole, give it a little push, and let go, and it's going to suck up the rest of the oil. You only oil stuff that goes round and round and round. Except for when it comes time for the... You definitely want to oil the click system for this ratcheting wheel, the great wheel. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the spring here, because that's part of the click system. And then I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the other side. But you also want to oil the pallets. And the way you oil the pallets, you could do it with that precision oiler, but doing it with a toothpick is so much easier. Just put oil on your toothpick and then dab some underneath the pallets. This is called a burge and crutch assembly. This between the plates is called the burge. What rocks back and forth on the escapement wheel are called pallets. There's an entry pallet and an exit pallet. You're not actually, even though you're putting oil on the pallets, you're doing this number afterwards to actually oil the escapement teeth. This is called the crutch assembly. This, the part that comes out of the movement. You never, in Frankenmuth, I'm not for sure if I pronounce that right, they sell clock parts. They have a diagram on putting a clock in beat, but their diagram is extremely vague. You're going to learn something here today. Learn this. They say in order to put a clock in beat, you bend what is known as a crutch to the left or to the right slightly. When I first started repairing these kind of clocks, I would bend up here to the left or to the right. Well, guess what? You know how many of these things I broke off? The way you put this clock in beat, you put your two fingers, one up here, one at the bottom, and you push with your thumb. Whether you want, again, this section down here is what I call the foot. If you want the foot to go to the left, I'm using my right hand, and I'm pushing, and so the foot goes to the left. If I want to go to the right, I'm going to use my left hand, and I'm going to push using the same way with my thumb. You're actually bending the crutch assembly in the middle. If you bend up here, these things, they're not all the same. This one's got a hole in it that the wire is shoved up and that the end of that wire is pinged. A lot of them are tack welded at the bottom. So what happens to metal when you bend it left to right and left to right? It's going to break. So don't do that. Again, Frankenmuth webpage is very vague on how you put a clock in beat. They do not bend the crutch to the left or to the right by grabbing a hold of this thing, because what you're actually bending is this arm right here, and you will break it. So using your two fingers, your peace sign, your first and second finger, put it one at the top, one at the bottom. Using your thumb is how you make adjustments, slight adjustments. With these type of clocks, it's typically, when I put a chain on this thing, typically if this thing was straight up and down, it will tick all day long without the pendulum on. But once you put a pendulum on, it'll stop. Most of the time, these things are going to have an arc in them. So keep that in mind. This is ready to go back into the case after I finish oiling this side of the movement, which I never did because I got busy talking. I screwed up there, so I'm going to wipe the excess oil off. This Q-tip is not getting the oil that's down in that hole. And don't forget to oil this piece. It goes round and round and round. So I got the thing oiled. You can actually put a drop of oil on this because the hour pipe and the minute pipe go round and round and round. So it wouldn't hurt putting a drop of oil on both this shaft right here, which the hour pipe fits on, and the hour pipe itself. Sorry, the minute pipe itself. This is the minute pipe, and this is the hour pipe, which it fits on. So now, because it goes round and round and round, I follow my own instructions. So now it's time to put this movement back in the case, but I'm going to clean up the case first. I hope y'all are enjoying this video. Leave me comments. My friend Michael Anderson just might giving me this oiler, but I didn't mention, at least I don't think, I'd have to view my video. I leave his channel at the end of all my videos, to include Cheryl Adair's Repairs at the end of all my videos. They are both really good YouTube channels. Cheryl is a great teacher. Michael Anderson, he repairs clocks that I wouldn't touch. He does a great job, and by the time he's done with his clocks, they're up and running. A lot of times my videos, I have like a part 1, and I'm like, I'll get to part 2 whenever I feel like it. And there are some clocks that I've never gotten to part 2. And a lot of it's got to do with me. I'm a very busy person when it comes to clocks. Not always working on my clocks, but helping other people with their clocks. And by the time I'm through answering questions and video chat with people, a lot of times I don't feel like working on my clocks. And so check out all the channels that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and please subscribe to them. It doesn't cost you a penny, so why not take my advice and do it? I cleaned up all the wood with Howard beading wax. And a lot of times these movements are only held into place with 2 nails, but this one's held into place with 4 nails, so I put all 4 nails back. And again, I had to bend the crutch assembly out of the way to put this thing in the case. I'm sure the way this thing was put together, this piece right here went on last. Or maybe they nailed the movement in this top piece in, slid this top piece in these rabbit joints, I believe that's what they're called, and then finished putting these 2 nails in this wood. But anyway, what I did was bend the crutch out of the way. So the clock movement itself is ready to go back on the base, but I don't want to do that yet. And it didn't come with a back. And you can use, and the back, this door right here is what is used to hold up the movement. If it wasn't, sorry, to hold up the clock on the wall. If it wasn't used to hold up the clock on the wall, you could use a piece of cardboard or paper to cover this up. But because it's used to hold up the clock on the wall, I don't want to use cardboard or paper. I'll use something else. If I had my chewing gum, if I was still using chewing gum, the plastic from the chewing gum is extremely tough, and you could slide that plastic up there, and that could be used to hold this up. But I'll come up with something else. And I've been working on clocks pretty well all day, and so it's time for me to call it quits for the day. I picked my friend's musical one-day cuckoo clock that's got squirrels that are in the front. You should see that video by the time you watch this video. And I don't want to work on this thing for right now. And as you can see, I use tape to tape the hour pipe and the minute pipe in. So, and I'm going to put this stuff in this bag. There's been strange things that happen in my house. A lot of people don't believe me. You just have to experience it for yourself. I've got a clock that I bought a few years ago while I was visiting my friend. And here's the movement. It's a huge clock. It's a musical cuckoo clock the governor assembly that connects right here, the only place I worked on this clock is in this room. There's wire baskets. That's where I put all the parts. I can't find that governor assembly. A friend of mine wants to trade me this clock for an Alexander Puig movement. My Alexander Puig movement, even though it works, it still has a couple of issues, and he's got 2 of them that are brand new. And this will be his biggest clock that he has in his house. And he wants to trade me this stuff. And I told him whenever I find the governor assembly, we'll trade. But I haven't been able to find it. So I went ahead and I won a clock on Goodwill, a musical cuckoo clock. I paid $18 for the clock and another $15.35 to have it shipped to me. And there's hardly anything wrong with the clock. It looks like it has the exact same movement as the one I just showed you. And I'm going to rob the governor assembly off of that clock to put on that movement to do this trade. Strange things happen in my house. You'd only have to live here to experience it. You're never going to believe me, but I've experienced it several times. Say one more thing before I quit talking about strange things that happen in my house. My son never believed me. He thought, well, Dad, you're getting old, you're forgetful, you're misplacing things, you're losing it. He stayed the night at my house. We went down to Springfield and saw a comedy show. The next day, he was going to go hunting on my property. He brought his phone charger in from his truck, put him in the bedroom. Next day, when he goes to leave, guess what? His phone charger was not in the bedroom. He looked all over the bedroom, couldn't find it. He was getting mad. My son gets mad easily, or at least he did back then. We found the phone charger, or he did. It was in my living room. I didn't pick it up. He didn't put it there, he says. I have little children's spirits that are in my house, and they like playing games. They like hiding stuff on me. It has happened several times. Believe me or not, I don't care. I know what happens in my house. So my sister makes this stuff. It's called Cowboy Candy. It's like jalapeno jelly. And it's really good. Well, I don't have any. And you know, there's different things that you try all the time. You think it'd be stupid or gross or whatever until you try it, and then it's like, I want to try that again. Make yourself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Add some jalapenos to it. I'm telling you, it is freaking delicious. Try it. You might like it. You know what else tastes good with jalapenos? When I was stationed over in England, me and my wife, now ex-wife, went to a theater on base. And when you go to a theater, you get popcorn and drinks. And they're like, you want jalapenos in your popcorn? I'm like, what? Sure, why not? It's delicious. Try it. You'll love it. If you love jalapenos, and I love jalapenos, I go through a jar quite often. So don't knock it until you try it. It's really good. Or even Tabasco sauce. Put Tabasco sauce in your popcorn if you like Tabasco sauce, if you don't have any jalapenos. It's really good. So trying my luck with some acrylic paints. I had to paint her entire face with this beige paint. I'll probably have to put another coat on it. But I painted her top part of her hat, and I painted the bottom part of her hat, but I got a little excess paint on the bottom part of her hat, so it takes a steady hand to do this stuff. And once her face is dry, I'll add her lips and eyes and eyebrows. The same way with him. I'll have to put another coat on, but once his lips are dry, the paint's dry, I'll add his eyes and lips and all that stuff back. But we're getting there. This is my friend who I call Sir Lucky, who I call Grasshopper, who I tell him he needs to go to the Indian reservation in New York where he buys the cigarettes and buy me some fairy dust, because he's one of the luckiest people I know when it comes to purchasing clocks. But we video chat quite often, and he was bragging of all the clocks that he's got running, and I keep telling him he's breaking the 11th commandment, thou shalt not boast to thy master. But every time I video chat with him, he shows me all his clocks that he just got running. In the room that he was in, he started counting. I think he was up to 17 when I reminded him of the 11th commandment. And I'm like, you need to start praying and ask God for forgiveness for breaking the 11th commandment. Go ahead, Sir Lucky, show him all your clocks. Yeah. It got some little bitty clocks too, which people who collect cuckoo clocks normally have little bitty clocks because they run out of wall space. Sir Lucky lives with his mom, and I keep telling his mom that she needs to start charging him to rent the wall space. Yeah. You got a favorite clock there yet, Bob?
All of them are my favorite.
There you go. That is the right answer. People ask me all the time, which one is your favorite clock? And I'm like, asking me that question is like asking me which one is my favorite child. I can't say which one is my favorite. They're all my favorite. Bonnie, you need to start charging Bob for wall space.
I know, I can't even turn around.
I told him when he retired that he's going to have to take that truck payment to make clock payments and rent wall space off of you.
Wall space left.
I told him that he's going to have to talk into you and taking the pictures down to rent that wall space because you're running out of walls.
For sure.
But people, he's got some nice clocks in his house, and he has repaired every one of these clocks by watching my YouTube videos. And he's a guy that uses mothers to clean up all the movements. He takes the movements all the way apart and polishes every piece. And by the time he's done, you could shave in the movements. Smeckenbecker got one just like it. Beer Drinker's Cuckoo Clock. Your phone is getting blurry on me, Bob, so we're going to have to stop there.
Okay.
People are not perfect, but it's a lot better than what they were. If I was an artist, it might look a little bit better, but I'm okay with the way they turned out. I do have to touch up the hat still for him, and I got to touch up this. And there's a lot of scratches on this thing. And so, I don't know whether it looks better being touched up or left alone. What do y'all think? if I was to paint the entire board, which I'm not going to do, it might look better. But I'm just going to fill in these scratches with these permanent markers and go from there. Like I said, I'm not an artist. And like I tell everybody, the only person that you have to please is yourself, your spouse, which comes 8th of this month. This is February the 4th. I've been divorced for 20 years, so I don't have to please anybody. And the person that you're wanting to sell the clock to. And so everybody else, they don't have a say-so in the matter. So as long as you're happy, that's all that counts. So anyway, I'm going to finish touching this up. So I think I got the case looking a little bit better, or the base of the clock. It's not perfect, but I think it'll work. It looks a lot better than what it did. So it's now time to put this thing back onto the movement. And remember, you have to put this rod through this hole. That way when it ticks, the people's heads go back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. I took it all back off because I want to put the chain on first. Getting it started and then running the crate wheel to get the chain around the wheel. And then put some pressure on the chain to make sure it ticks. I'll go ahead and put the ring and the weight hook on the chain, and then I'll be back. And I also had to take it back apart because when I tried to activate the system, this would not move. So I had to take it back apart so I can put it back on. And this time I'm gonna take the dial back off and get these nails out of my way, so I can just do it temporarily. So stand by. This thing didn't come with a pendulum, and so the way these things work, I'm going to show you what a pendulum looks like with these things. Stand by. This is a typical pendulum and the typical pendulum bob. And they're novelty pendulums. You can buy them through Time Savers, or you can make one. And so that's what I'm going to do. I have a piece of wire here. I'm going to put a curve in the top of the wire. It's very important that you put a curve in the top of the wire, and then you bend the bottom part so it becomes straight. I don't know if you can see that, but it's bent, and then it's bent again so it comes straight. And you want this wire as straight as possible. So I'm gonna put this wire in my drill and straighten it out like I always do. Put it on a block and get out the main curve. There's a curve right here. But that's pretty dang straight there. And so the next thing I need to come up with is the pendulum bob. And you could use whatever the heck you want for a pendulum bob. And whatever you want. I've made them where I made a name out of wood using a pendulum bob. A friend of mine, her father owned a video store, and he used to pass out these tokens that were made out of like cardboard. And I made a pendulum bob for her novelty clock with that token, just to remind her of her father. Again, you can make them out of whatever you want. It's your clock. You can do whatever you want. This is a double pendulum clock. It's not the correct pendulum. I went to the dollar store and bought these gnomes. I don't have this thing wound up, but it keeps perfect time. This one is a typical. It's a clock where the pendulum swings back and forth like this. I went to the Dollar Tree and bought these Minnie Mouse characters to make this clock. It's your clock. You can do whatever you want. As I tell people all the time, the only person you have to please is yourself, your spouse, and a potential buyer. And as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And I make them all the time out of wood. These are hole saws where you make a hole with these things. So I'm going to choose the diameter hole that I want. And it does not have to be that size. It could be this great big one. And so you can make it out of whatever you want. So I'm going to go cut a few holes outside. That way I don't get sawdust all over my house. Here I cut out a few holes. I was using cheap wood and some of it didn't do as well. But you can get as creative as you want. If you like to fish, you could use a bobber. In this case, I took one of those wooden holes, I hooked a beetle spin to it, and as you can see, it works. Now, you have to modify this wire because I'm using thick wood, and if you don't modify the wire, then it'll hit the weight. I really need a wood that's half that diameter, and I can cut it down with my scroll saw. In fact, I think I'll go ahead and do that. But I already painted this so it looks like water, kind of. But, and this is the side that it actually is. So all I have to do now is put this thing in beat and make sure that it doesn't hit the weight when it's attached to the wall. Plus, I have to make this section right here. So let me go ahead and do that. A back door out of scrap wood, and I had to cut this section out because of the pendulum that I'm using, the pendulum bob, how thick it is. With me having to push this wire towards the rear, it has to be able to clear everything. So the last thing I have to do is put a set of hands on the clock, and I just want to show you on other clocks. If you look at the minute hand, it goes to the end of the dial, and if you look at the hour hand, it goes to the middle of the numbers on almost every one of my clocks. This clock has got the original hands on it, but they're a little bit short. And I have brand new hands, but I don't want to put brand new hands on them because it's an older clock, and I think brand new hands would look funny myself. Just my personal opinion. So I was digging through my older hands, and I came up with those. Now, the problem with putting the hands on, that's the minute hand that I have on first. I just wanted to see where it was in relationship to the dial. It's okay. I'm going to get the thing back off. The problem is, you should be able to see that square arbor, and that's what this is for. That goes down, and then the minute hand goes on top of it, and then the nut. Okay, but this is too small. The inside diameter of this square is 2.55, and the outside diameter of that square is 3 millimeters. So I have to take some off of this. So that's what I'm going to do next. Now I started with the square tapered file, and that's where I needed to go. And that's where I went to. It was taking forever. So I got out my Dremel with this bit right here, and I was able to open up this hole. And anyway, it fits onto the shaft now. So at least I believe it fits. The only way to find out is put the hour hand on. Of course, I had to remount the hour hand so it fit. And so now when I put this nut on, if I turn it and the hour hand turns, then I know it's right. So now I just need to put the minute hand on and a nut to hold the minute hand on. I know the nut is the wrong size, but it works, and I don't really care. But as you can see, when I turn the minute hand, the hour hand turns. Time to hang this thing up on the wall. Okay, I don't have the right tools in my house to cut this thing in half, and it's too wide. It's hitting the wall. So to finish this video up, I'm just going to put a typical pendulum on this clock. Anyway, it's a cute little novelty clock that was given to me by my friend for free, and it's up and running. I hope y'all like this video. Again, I took the pendulum off the original clock that I showed you, or one of the clocks, but I think it looks pretty cool. What do y'all think? I hope y'all like this video. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. If you don't give me a thumbs up or leave me comments, it actually hurts my YouTube channel, or anybody's YouTube channel. So if you like a video, I give people thumbs up and leave comments all the time on videos, because it helps out their channel. YouTube uses an algorithm, and the more thumbs up and more comments you get, the more that video is showed around the YouTube world, I guess is a good way of saying. But me taking my time showing you how to repair these clocks, I would appreciate it if you do give me a thumbs up at least, and comment and subscribe to my channel. Why? Because it's free. And please subscribe to all the other channels that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And may God bless each and every one of you.